5/4 is about dividing, and when it comes down to it, guys, you basically can't divide by a decimal. What do I mean by that? A decimal can be inside the house, but a decimal can't be outside the house. So I'll show you what we need to do in order to fix that, okay? So this first one is 1.5 divided by 5. Who's inside the house? Who's outside the house? It's 1.5 divided by 5. The 5's right. Whatever you're dividing by, he's on the outside. So leave room for us to write our answer, right? But we have 5 outside of 1.5. Okay? You can have a decimal on the inside, and what you do is once the decimal's in the right spot on the inside, you just move him straight up. So notice we haven't done any math yet, right? So, can 5 go into 1? No. But can 5 go into 15? How many times? 3 times. So you just do 15 and subtract, and you get 0. So your final answer? 0.3, 3/10. So, if you have a whole number on the outside, leave the decimal where it is on the inside and just pull it straight up, okay? So B and C are already set up for us, okay? So what am I going to do on B? I'm going to bring this decimal straight up. And I say, can 26 go into 7? No. Can 26 go into 78? Yeah, how many times do you think? 3, right? Do you know what that is? No? Maybe come up here and do 26 times 3 right up here, okay? You have scratch work wherever you need to do it. 3 times 6 is 18, carry your 1. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1, 78 perfectly, right? So we'll put a 3 up here and a 78 right below it. And you have 0, and then you bring down the 2. Can 26 go into 2? No. So what do we have to do? Put a 0 and bring down the 6. Can 26 go into 26? Yes, how many times? Once. So what's our final answer? 0.301, or 301 thousandths. So notice it's just kind of normal division. I mean, not that we like normal division, but it's normal division. You just bring that decimal straight up. Yes, ma'am?
Do you have to put the 0 in front of it?
No, did we talk about that on Thursday? About how it's a difference between life and death? Did I talk to you about that? 0.301 is the same thing as 0.301, but if your decimal is not an obvious decimal, it could get marked wrong.
Okay.
So putting that 0 in front is kind of saving your butt.
Okay.
So if you have a 0 in front, I know that's a decimal behind it, right? Okay. So guys, on this one, let's worry about the sign first. What's a negative divided into a positive? Negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. Let's put a negative out there. We're not dividing by a decimal, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring him straight up. Can 518 go into 0? No. Can 518 go into 9? No. We got to write kind of small. Can 518 go into 93? No. Can 518 go into 932? One time, right? And how do you guys know that? You kind of do like the double idea, right? Double 500 would be 1,000, right? We'd be over that 900, so we know it can only go in one time. So above the 2, put a 1, and then put 518 right below it. And then we just have to do itty-bitty subtraction. It's really small, okay? We got to borrow, so he'll become a 2. And we'll have 12 minus 8 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. 9 minus 5 is 4. 414. Does that look okay? And then we bring down the 4. Can 518 go into 4144? Yes. The question is how many times? I always just kind of estimate. Take that front number 5 and ask how many times it can go into that front number 41. 5 times what's close to 41? 8. So let's go over here and see what 518 times 8 is, okay? That's kind of how I get like a rough starting point. This is kind of like 5-ish into 40-ish, okay? So let's see what this is. 8 times 8 is 64. Put your 4, carry your 6. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 6 is 14. Put your 4, carry your 1. 8 times 5 is 40. Oh, 41. So it does go in perfectly 8 times.
You knew that.
I did because I have the answer key right here. But remember, if you try it and it's a little low, try 9 or whatever, okay? So our final answer, guys, is negative 0.0018. But Bree is right. I didn't know that. Hee hee hee. All right, so A through C are pretty straightforward. If you don't have a decimal on the outside, the decimal point on the inside is where it needs to be. Just bring it straight up, okay? D through F, though, realize they have decimals on the outside, which we can't have, okay? So what we have to do is we have to move the decimal over so that it's a whole number on the outside. What do I mean by that? 8.9, we need to move it over one spot, so it's 89, right? No more decimals. But if we move it on one spot on the outside, we have to move it over one spot on the inside. Basically, we're just kind of multiplying everything by 10, okay? So we're going to move this over, and he's going to go right behind the 2, and he's going to go straight up, okay? Once you move him over to the right spot, move him straight up. So really what we're doing is we're taking 222.5 divided by 89. You see the difference there? And what we're going to do is just the same kind of math. How many times does 89 go into 2? It doesn't. How many times does 89 go into 22? It doesn't. How many times does 89 go into 222? What do you think? 89 is close to 90, right? So 9-ish. 9 times what gets you close to 20-ish? 2. Let's go over to the side and do 89 times 2 and see what we get. We get 2 times 9 is 18. And then 2 times 8 is 178. That looks good, right? How do I know not to try 3? It'd be over, right? Another 90 on that would be like in the 260s, right? So how many times does 89 go to 222? Twice. But since he was going into 222, I'm putting him all the way over here, you know, my handwriting's big, above that last 2, right? Right in front of the decimal. And so I'm going to do 189 right below 222 and do the subtraction.
178.
Yeah.
178.
Where did 189? I think I was looking at 89. Yes, 178. I don't even know where 189 came from. Thank you. 178. Like, what? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to borrow. And again, it's kind of hard because it's really tight quarters, okay? So we're going to borrow, and this 2 is going to become a 1, and he's going to become a 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. But then we're going to have to borrow again because he can't do 1 minus 7. So this one's going to become a 1, and he's going to become 11. 11 minus 7 is 4, so we get 44, and then 1 minus 1 is nothing, so we're not going to worry about that. Once you do the subtraction, you bring down the 5, absolutely. So then the question is, how many times does 89 go into 445? Again, 5 times, right? It's that whole idea of 9 goes into 45 5 times. So let's go off to the side and do 89 times 5. 5 times 9 is 45, put your 5, carry your 4. 5 times 8 is 40. Perfectly. There it is, guys. So what goes behind the decimal? A 5. And then 45 goes right there. So our final answer? 2.5. You guys, I'm serious. It's one of those things that even if someone's good at math, if they haven't done math for a long time, you guys are doing better than they are. Like, you could say, like, do this division of decimals, and they're going to be like, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. All right. Who's going to, actually, let's worry about our sign first. What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. So we're not going to even worry about our signs. And then who's on the outside? The 36.1. And who's on the inside? The 1411.51. Is that okay? But remember, we can't ever have a decimal on the outside. So what are we going to have to do with this decimal? Move it over 1. But if we move it over 1 here, we got to move it over 1 here and move it straight up, okay? So once he gets in his correct location, he has to go straight up. All right, this is where it starts getting hard. Can 361 go into 1? No. Can 361 go into 14? No. Can 361 go into 141? No. Can 361 go into 1411? Yes. Can I just save us some time? Is that okay? You would have scratch paper and you'd say, okay, 3, 6 is like 4, 4 into 14. It's like 2-ish or 3-ish. You know what? Play around with it. But it's 3, okay? And we're going into 1411. So we're going to put it above that last one. So that's a 3 right there. And 3 times 361 is 1083. So we're going to put it right below it. But you guys get what we do, right? You play around with what number you can get. So again, we're going to do subtraction, tight quarters. We're going to have to borrow all that jazz. So this 1's going to borrow from him, so he's going to be a 0. And this is going to be 11 minus 3, which is 8. We can't do 0 minus 8, so we're going to have to borrow from him. He's going to become a 3. He's going to become a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 3 minus 0 is 3, and 1 minus nothing. So we get 328, but what I need to do next? Bring down the 5. And again, you play around with numbers. How many times can 361 go into 3285? Play around with it. Almost 10 times, but not quite. So it'd be 9 times, all right? So you put a 9 up there. And off in your scratch work, you would do 361 times 9, figure out what that is, and that's 3249. So it's almost perfectly. And what do we get there? We get 5. Oh, can't do it. Got to borrow, right? So we have 15 minus 9 is 6. 7 minus 4 is 3. 32 minus 32 is nothing. What's my last move I got to do? Bring down the 1. How many times does 361 go into 361?
1.
I like that math, right? So we have 1 there. Bless you. And so we'd have 361 minus, you keep going until you get that 0, no remainder. So 39.1 is your final answer there.
Will there ever be remainder?
I know. What'd you say?
Will there ever be remainder?
No, because you keep going until there's a 0 or until they tell you when to stop and just round. Okay? So they'll either be, what'd you say? Yeah, these ones you can do on your calculators, like the fractions, you couldn't. These ones will either be kind of nice, clean ones where they stop, or like on the back, they'll say round to the nearest hundredth. So you go until you can round to the nearest hundredth, and we'll talk about that. All right, this last one, can we divide by 0.02? No. How many spots do we need to move our decimal? 2. But if we move it 2 on the outside, we have to move it 2 on the inside. So what happens there, we've got to extend this, add a 0, and move that decimal straight up. But it's easy math, because how many times does 2 go into 8? 4. 0, bring down the 0. And how many times does 2 go into 0? 0. So what's our answer? 40. And you guys might have been able to just do that in your head. What's 80 divided by 2? Split it in half. You get 40 there. I think this one's just there to show you, like, these two, we only had to move it once, but you just move it however many spots you need to. So in this one, we had to move it twice, but if you do it twice on the outside, you do it twice on the inside. All right. No, you can put the decimal. You can put 0.0, but if there's nothing behind the decimal, there's no need to put the decimal.
Online,
If you put 40.0, that should be fine, but if you just put 40 point, that's not a real number. So if you're going to put a decimal, put a 0 behind it. Okay? If it's on a homework, I just say do it over again. If it's on a quiz, email me, don't do it over again, I'll give you credit. So guys, these are the same things, okay? Let's just make sure we feel comfortable. I'm going to rewrite it because there's no room to write my answer up there. And when I rewrite it, I'm going to rewrite it with my decimals in the right spot. So this is really going to be 25 going into 185. So 25 going into 185. And again, you just play around with numbers. Think quarters. How many quarters can you have to get as close to 185 as possible? 7, because it's 175. I went 25, I just think quarters, right? So you have 4 to get you to $1 and 3 more to get you to $1.75. So this is just 7. Oops, I moved my decimal, so I got to move him straight up. Whoopsie, okay? And so we have 7, and this was 175. 5 minus 5 is 0. 8 minus 7 is 1. 1 minus 1 is nothing, but what I still need to do, technically, I'm bringing down a 0 there. So when you move your decimal all the way to the end, you can add a 0. How many quarters go into $1? 4. So we're done that quick. Right? Dividing by 25 is not horrible because I think we feel comfortable with the quarter stuff. All right, B is going to be similar. It's not going to be 25 exactly, but I'm going to kind of keep that in my mind when I try to pick numbers that it goes into, okay? So when I rewrite this, I'm really going to write it as 24 into 354 with a decimal behind it. So this is 24 into 354 with a decimal behind it. So move that decimal straight up. Again, think quarters. How many quarters do you have if you have 350? Or actually, let's start with 35 cents. 24 goes into 35 how many times? Once. So we have 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down the 4. How many quarters go into $1.14? 4, right? But it's not a quarter, right? So we're going to do 24 times 4 over here to see what exactly it is. So 4 times 4 is 16, 2 times 4, so 96 is what we're going to subtract. So I'm just kind of using that as an estimate. All right, I got to borrow. So we'll have 14 minus 6 is 8. And then 10 minus 9 is 1. You get 18 there, guys. And then we got to bring down that 0. And again, ish, you know. How many quarters go into $1.80? 7 again. But it's not really a quarter, so we'll go over here and do 24 times 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Put your 2, carry your 1. 7 times 2 is 14, right? Plus 2 is 168. Does that look right? So we'll put a 7 up here, and we'll put 168. We're running out of room. We better be done soon. All right. Got to borrow, so it's going to be 10, and this is going to change to a 7. 10 minus 8 is 2. Is that right? 7 minus 6 is 1, and then you'd have to bring extra zeros down if you need to. So we're going to bring an extra 0 down. So remember, every time you subtract, you bring down a 0. If there's not a 0 there, bring it down. All right, this is where I think we get to end like the nail on the head. How many quarters go into like $1.25? 5, right? So 24 times 5, if you do that, that's 120 exactly, okay? So 5 times 4 is 20. Put your 0, carry your 2. 5 times 2 is 10, so 120. So we'll put 5 there, okay? So our final answer is 1475. The next couple things, again, if you just want to do it like we've been doing, you're absolutely more welcome to, okay? But multiplying and dividing by powers of 10, you're just trying to make it easier for you. If you're dividing, you're making it smaller, right? So if I'm going to divide by 7.74 divided by 10, I'm going to just move the decimal over 1 spot to the left to make it smaller. So my answer is 0.774. Why 1 spot? Because the 10 only has 1 0. What can I do with this answer? How many zeros are in 1,000? 3. So what can I do to this decimal? Move it to the left 3 spots, because again, I'm making it smaller. So you go 1, 2, 3. So what's your final answer? Negative 0.88773. If you don't like that, you can do the old school long division like we've been doing. All right, I'm dividing by 100. How many zeros are there? 2. So I'm just going to move my decimal 2 spots to the left. 1, 2. So I have 0.01047. Does that look okay? So when you're dividing by 10, 100, 1,000, you're making it smaller, right? So you're going to move it to the left. If you're multiplying by 10, 100, or 1,000, you're making it bigger, so you'll move it to the right. All right, this is very, very repetitive. Now that you know how to do it, can we just plug it in and evaluate? We sure can. Everybody at the bottom, I'm not turning it too quick, okay. So z divided by y, if you're okay with it, guys, I'm going to set it up like the house way right off the bat. Is that okay? So z divided by y is going to be on the outside of the house. What is y? Negative 0.03 divided into z, which is 1.51. Right? You're dividing by outside of house. Whatever you're dividing by is on the outside of the house. Okay. What's our sign going to be? Negative. Negative. So I'm typing negative in my math lab right now. Here's negative, throwing that up there, okay? Can I divide by 0.3? No. What am I going to do to my decimal? Move it once. All right. So I got to move it once here and move it straight up, guys, okay? So really we're doing 3 into 15.1, all right? How many times does 3 go into 15? 5 times perfectly. So you put a 5, and you put 15 below here. 15 minus 15 is 0, bring down the 1. How many times does 3 go into 1? 0, right? So bring down another 0. How many times does 3 go into 10? 3. What's 3 times 3? 9. What's 10 minus 9? 1. Bring down the 0, and you're going to see a pattern happening, right? How many times does 3 go into 10? 3. It's like the math problem that never ends. Okay, so do you guys see what's happening there? What's going to be happening every time? It's going to be 10 minus 9, 10 minus 9. It's a repeating decimal. Yes, exactly. Whenever you have that decimal that's going to be the same decimal forever, you can write it and you just put the bar over the number that's repeating. So what do I mean by that? Our final answer on this one's going to be negative 5.03 repeating. Meaning I don't have to write all those 3's. I know from there on there's going to be a bunch of 3's, okay? If that was like a 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, you'd put the bar over the 76, right? Whatever numbers are repeating. All right, z divided by x. Again, we're dividing by x, so he's going to be on the outside. 3.02 divided into z, which is 1.51. Can I divide by that? Nope. So I'm going to move him over 2 spots. So I'm going to move him over 2 spots and move him straight up and put some zeros behind there. Just kind of cover my butt a little bit, okay? Can 302 go into 1? 15? 151? Nope. So I'm going to put a big 0 in front of this decimal. But can it go into 1510? It can. 3 times what gets you to 15? 5. So let's do 302 times 5 up here. You're confused? Are you okay with, we're dividing by x, so since we're dividing by x, he goes on the outside, so x was 3.02. Is that okay? Did you catch it?
I put 302.
Okay, that's what. And then divided into z, but z was 1.51, so he needs to go on the inside. So 5 times 2 is 10, put a 0 carrier 1. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 5 times 3 is 15, 10. We nailed it. So that's just 5 times. Do we need to keep going? No, because we just have a bunch of zeros behind it, but a bunch of zeros behind 0.5 is still just 0.5. So our answer is 0.5. All right, last one, x divided by y. So we're dividing by y, so he needs to be on the outside, negative 0.3. And he's dividing into x, which is 3.02. This one, what is the sign going to be? Negative, so I'm like throwing that into my math lab right now, okay? And then I got to move my decimal over 1 spot, but I've moved him over 1 spot here, I move him over 1 spot here, move him straight up. All right, 3 goes into 3 how many times? Once. Bring down your 0. 3 goes into 3 how many times? 0. Bring down your 2. 3 goes into 2 how many times? 0. Bring down a 0. 3 goes into 20 how many times? 6. What's 3 times 6? 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. Bring down a 0. Yeah, you're going to see the pattern because how many times does 3 go into 20? 6. And so forth, right? So the final answer is negative 10.06 with a bar over the 6 because the 6 is just going to repeat. So Caitlin had a good question. She goes like, are they always going to be like this perfect, like go into it, or are they going to round? Well, some of everything. So the front page, we only had to go to a couple decimals and eventually they ended. That's called a terminating decimal. So they end, so we're done. Or you might see this repeating, which is really easy to do. You just put the bar. Or they'll tell you what to round to, okay? So what we want to do is we run around to the nearest hundredth, but in order to round the nearest hundredth, we need the spot behind it to know whether that hundredth is going to go up or stay the same. So we go tens, hundreds, thousands. We actually need to go to the thousandth spot. Which is 3 decimals, okay? Because that third decimal will be telling us whether that hundredth will stay the same or go up, okay? So whatever you're rounding to, you always need 1 extra decimal point to get there, okay? It says divide 894 thousandths by negative 41 thousandths. So who are we dividing by?
0.
Yeah, the 41, so he's going to be on the outside. So we're going to have negative 0.041 on the outside, and we're going to divide into 0.894. Okay, what's our answer going to be as far as sign goes? negative, right? So I'm just going to throw a negative up here. And what do I have to do with my 0.041? Move them over 1, 2, 3 spots. 1, 2, 3 spots. So he goes right behind the 894. Add a couple zeros to help us out, okay? Again, I'm just going to kind of speed us a little bit. So we're really doing 41 into 8. Can't happen. 41 into 89. It can happen twice, right? What's 41 times 2? Just double both numbers. 82. Okay? 9 minus 2 is 7. 8 minus 8 is nothing. Bring down the 4. How many times can 41 go into 74? Just once, okay? Because when we doubled it, it was 82, so it only can go in once. So we're going to put 41 below it. 4 minus 1 is 3. 7 minus 4 is 3. Bring down the 0. And this is where it just kind of gets harder because we have to think about, why did I put a 3 there? Bring down the 0. So how many times does 41 go into 330? Play around with it. 4 into 32-ish is 8, okay? So it goes in 8 times. Off to the side, do 41 times 8 to know what that is. That's 328. I'm running out of room. All right, we have 10 minus 8 is 2. I have to, that's it, right? That goes down to a 2. So we have a 2. Bring down the 0. How many times does 41 go into 20? 0. So bring down another 0. And this will be our deciding factor. If 41 goes into 200 5 or more times, we know that's going to round to an 81. If it goes into it 4 or fewer times, we know it's just going to stop at 80. Okay, that's why we have to go. So we're at the nearest hundredth right now, but we need that third decimal to know, is it going to go up or not. So how many times does 41 go into 200?
5.
Let's try 5. Let's do 41 times 5 is 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 4, so just slightly over. So we're going to have to do 4, right? So 4 times 1 is 4, so 16, 164. So we'll put a 4 there, and I don't even care what the remainder is, right? Because now that I know that's a 4, what's the 80 going to do? Is it going to stay in 80 or go to an 81? Stay in 80. So our final answer is negative 2180, right? 4 and below, leave it alone. You guys, does that make sense? Like whatever you have to round to, you need an extra decimal place to know, what do I round it to? Do I round it up or leave it alone? All right, B is just really kind of annoying in general, but it's very applicable, all right? It's where you can see in real life. We are preparing for a picnic, so Carol went to the deli and purchased 0.52 pounds of salami at $3.29 a pound, 0.48 pounds of sliced turkey at $8.99 a pound, cheese. 1.04 pounds of ham at $3.99 a pound, and 0.98 pounds of cheese at $4.29 a pound. What was the total amount that she spent? What do we have to do?
Too much for a picnic.
Too much for a picnic, I think. We're not going to divide. We're actually going to, what did you say? I would say let's just go to Jimmy John's and pick up some subs. Okay, so what we're going to do is, remember whenever you're given like a single value, so we know per pound what she's spending, but then we know how many pounds she's buying, we're going to be multiplying all these. So we got to figure out how much she spends on salami by multiplying that, how much she spends on turkey by multiplying that, and at the end we're going to add it all up. So this really doesn't need to be in the section because there's no division, but it's a good reminder of our multiplication. So if this count like cuts off, I'm just going to let it cut off. Yeah.
I was gonna tell you that.
Okay. Don't you think that's okay, guys, if I just say what we need to be doing? So we're going to do salami. That's my favorite. Is that anybody else's favorite lunch meat?
Yeah.
It's probably the least healthy. Okay, 329 times 52. And we're just going to do this for every meat and every cheese and then add it up at the end. So remember, we're going to ignore decimals completely. So 2 times 9 is 18. Carry your 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 plus 3 is 6. And then we're going to shift over when we go to our 5. 5 times 9, what's that, 45? Put your 5, carry your 4. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14, carry your 1. 3 times 5 is 16. Geez, seems like a lot just for half a pound. Okay, so 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 5 is 10, carry your 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11, carry your 1. 7. You guys get that? So 17108. But then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, slots behind our decimals. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So she spent $1.71 because we don't really care about that fraction of a cent back there. We're just going to round to the nearest cent, which is 2 decimal places, all right? So $1.71 in salami. Let's do it for turkey. How much turkey?